I'm talking here with Jean Paty from Quintile Corporation, and Jean gave a lecture this morning on patient-friendly trials. And share with us some of your thinking on what is a patient-friendly trial. Why is it important?
So I think of not just patient-friendly trials, but also patient-friendly medicines and products. And the way we get there is by focusing on the patient, both in the trials, but also in what we ask patients. And as I said this morning, a patient-centered or a patient-centered product is not just about the patient, it's also about all key stakeholders. So for example, a clinician needs to understand what benefit a product has to patients. The patients need to feel it's relevant, but also a patient-centered product will pass regulators, so we have to take regulators into account. And a patient-centered product that benefits patients will be reimbursed. So we need to listen to the patient, very much listen to clinicians, and make sure we're bringing a compelling story to regulators and payers. So it's patient-centered trials that allow products to get to patients that bring them benefit that they have told us benefit them.
Well, clinical trials always have patients involved by definition.
Right.
So how does a patient-centered trial differ from a non-patient-centered trial?
I think in two key ways. So number one, we've actually started to really do this now rather than only talk about it. We're involving patients in designing the clinical trial. For example, if this trial contained these number of procedures and these number of visits, would you actually go?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And it's patients with the disease,
okay.
Right? The second thing we're looking at is things that keep the patient in the trial or retain the patient in the trial. And so, for example, one of the things we're learning is that it's harder for patients to get to investigative sites. How do we facilitate that? That simple step might be enough. The other thing is we've not communicated back to patients very well during trials, and we're starting to change that. How are you doing?
So how does a manufacturer put patient-centered trials into the brand of a product to, I assume, help marketability of that product?
Right. So that's the second part.
Okay.
So the second part is what we call patient-centered endpoints.
Okay.
That is outcomes or endpoints that help us understand the patient better, their experience with the product, or the patient's perspective on, or the patient's voice comes through in the product. For example, we've seen recent products in oncology where patient symptoms have actually made it onto the product label. We've seen other products that would have never made it to the market if the patient experience wasn't part of the product's labeling, and that allows companies to uniquely position the product in the marketplace.
And makes it easier for the patient to use and for the provider to manage.
Yeah, so part of what we're trying to do is move to the point where, we can tell the patient, this product is going to reduce this biomarker by X, Y, and Z.
Okay.
We want to be able to go beyond that to be able to say to the patient, this is going to improve how you feel in this way.
Okay.
And know that we have reliable and valid data underneath that.
Okay. So if the provider is aware of those things, it makes it easier for a provider to provide.
Right.
Yeah.
And this comes back to providers, and we were talking specifically about where pharmacists might come into this.
Right.
Well, if the product label reflects how patients may feel while taking the product, it I think allows, especially pharmacists, a more direct avenue to be able to communicate what a product will and will not do for them.
Okay. So do you think payers, insurance companies, are also interested in this process?
I'd say we're in earlier days with payers than we are with regulators, and there is a significant willingness to expand and understand how this view, the patient's view, can be taken into account, especially because payers are now moving towards an outcome-based reimbursement process.
That's right, and they're paying for outcomes now.
Right.
So
we're helping them understand what outcomes are meaningful.
well, that's true. Yeah, that's true.